Glenn, how are you doing?
Good, Drew. It's great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you. The last time I talked to you, you had a short film on a phone, so I feel like we've come a long way since then. I wanted to ask first, and without sending you back to therapy, but you developed Rapunzel for a long time as a director, and I was wondering what you took from that experience and applied when finally getting to make Over the Moon.
Everything that I loved about directing Rapunzel, and then it became Tangled, I just took it to the next level on this movie, really wanting the subtlety of performance in Fei-Fei's face and designing characters that were going to deliver. The thing that I love in our characters is that believing the impossible is possible and animating in her eyes that kind of crazy drive of this little 12-year-old girl is going to build a rocket to the moon. She's so smart. She knows math and science and physics, and yet also has this belief from her mom, this faith to see what others don't see. That's the joy that I wanted to be able to do in this movie.
Was there ever talk of it being a 2D hand-drawn feature?
Well, I was certainly given that choice. The wonderful thing about Netflix is that they really give enormous creative freedom to you. And I knew that there was one part that I for sure wanted to do by hand, and that was this scarf animation. When I read that, I was like, okay, that has got to be, that's mine. I'm going to do that myself. And for it, I researched ancient Chinese drawings and really learned the rhythms of the flow of the scarf, the movements in Chang'e as she would fly through the air, and put that into the animation. But the thing that really drove me to go CG with this was what I saw in Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz, in a lot of ways, is a great example for our film, where they went from this black and white to Technicolor. That fantasy world was so remarkable. And I was thinking, how in the world are we going to do that? And I remember seeing the Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album cover with that prism and the white light exploding into a rainbow of colors and light. It was about light. And that's what this was going to be. On Earth, it was going to be reflected light in this little town of China. On the moon, in the Dark Side of the Moon in Lunaria, it was going to be source light exploding out from the inside out. And that made all the difference in the world. When Celine Desrumaux, my production designer, showed me the first image of Fei-Fei in front of Lunaria, all I could do was laugh and cry at the same time. It was so beautiful.
And you could only do that in CG, I'm assuming, that kind of illumination, right?
You can only do that in CG. Yeah.
Can you talk about working with John? Because he's not here today, but I would love to hear what that dynamic was like. I mean, you guys are illustrators who have used computer animation and hand drawn sort of together in really interesting ways. What was that partnership like?
Halfway through the film, I realized how wonderful it would be to have a partner like John, as this film was moving at such a lightning speed. To have someone who thought in many ways like I do, and yet bring something fresh and new. There was one point in the movie, Palin Chow, Melissa Cobb, they would make suggestions here and there, and I always had a choice of whether we do it or not. But at this point, I finally realized they were right. I needed to add this little moment into the film where Fei-Fei is running with this gift and loses it. She hadn't lost it yet. And we were hearing from Pei Lin, she's got to lose it one more time. And I realized it, but we only had like 5 minutes left to actually lock the film.
Right.
And so I quickly was storyboarding and sketching as fast as I could what I thought. And then there's John sitting next to me, and he's drawing it. And then we both finished at the same time. We realized we had the same idea, but his was like a bird's eye view looking down, planning where all the cameras would go. Mine was the images of the character moments and what the acting would be. And it was such a great compliment. John is left-handed, I'm right-handed. As we would be working with the animators in Vancouver, he and I would be sitting shoulder to shoulder, and some poor animator had both of us drawing together at the same time over top of their work. It was a really wonderful partnership with him.
Well, can you talk a little bit about sort of wrangling these different animation studios? And you've got Pearl in China, and what that sort of was like, especially as a first-time feature director. I imagine that was a lot.
Jenny Rim is an incredible producer who builds a team around you that's kind of the perfect team for you. It fits like tailor-made clothes. You feel like you're surrounded by the best. And we tested various studios before we went with Sony, and worked with Sasha Kapinchabanka. And working with him was incredible. He has such a sense of who the animators would be the best ones for us. We really were searching for as many people who had an Asian background as possible to bring that sensitivity to it. Jenny and Pei Lin were both Asian. All of our voice talent were the artists in Shanghai. That really helped me a lot about acting choices. In this movie, though it was being done in Vancouver, we traveled back and forth many times, but on my wall in my office was a big monitor. And that was my window to the world, because we were working with people in Holland and Shanghai and France and Spain. And I just got to go to all those places. And it was a great training for when the pandemic hit, that we could keep moving forward.
Well, Glenn, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I love the movie, and it's always a thrill to get to talk to you. So enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yes, thank you, Drew. It's great to see you again.